Well, as we begin another edition of Hog Planet, Sam, are you familiar with the event, the hottest ticket in town right now in old New York, Ape Fest?
Oh, this sounds awesome. Did a certain, dance punk legend band come out of retirement for this nonsense?
Yes, LCD Sound System played a full set for the Bored Ape Yacht Club NFT fest. Now, given that there is a weekly cryptocurrency crash, not to mention claims of racism against the NFT group, LCD Sound System was there, playing like a full set to just like, I mean, it seemed like a sea of just like men. Like it was not, I mean, that was all one could see in the video. Which listen, I
these guys need to be going to the hot babe yacht clubs.
Let's just say there's a certain type of guy who's into the apes. But I actually was curious, did you see any of the other performers?
I did not. No, I'm
well,
I'm not in the yacht club. I'm too stimulated.
Well, okay,
too human.
Are you familiar with a certain band with a certain three sisters, where a certain actress was in Licorice Pizza?
Yeah, what is that, Haim or whatever?
Yep, they were there. And okay, guess what comedian was there? I will give you three guesses.
Okay, it's not obvious. It's not Seth Green, right? Because
no. It's a stand-up comedian.
Stand-up comedian who would do this. All right. Rogan is too famous. Like he wouldn't do like just a stand-up set at this thing, right?
I won't count that as a guess, but it's no.
All right. If I have to guess,
it is a woman. It is a woman.
Oh, it's a woman. Amy Schumer.
Yes.
Boom. How did I do that? That's amazing. I literally had, that was a wild stab in the dark. I was like, who's a woman comedian that sorry everyone, I think it's kind of dumb, and first name that popped in my head. Wow. Go with your gut, folks.
For some reason I had a feeling you would nail that. That was good. All right, let's start the show.
That's a hog way to kick it off.
Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen.
Who let the hogs out?
So this is Hog Planet, and oops, sorry, my mic tipped there. It's a little flaccid. This is Hog Planet, as I just said, and we are the podcast where we discuss the hogs and hog culture that has embroiled our society. So Sam, I'd like to start by mentioning I watched this documentary called Kurt Vonnegut, Unstuck in Time, and it was directed by this guy Robert Weide, who you might recognize the name from being the director of 1 million episodes of Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah, I was gonna say it sounds familiar.
Well, the doc sucked. It was essentially like about Whitey's like friendship with Vonnegut versus like
no one cares
a deep examination of Vonnegut's like life. Like, yes, there was biographical elements, but like it was like 2 whole hours of like I got to hang out with like a guy I really liked in high school. Like it was shit. So wow. Kurt Vonnegut, Unstuck in Time, skip it. If you want to just like watch footage of Vonnegut, I guess you can watch it, but not good. Anything that you've seen lately that you'd like to
Okay, I
Thumbs
got
up or
one.
thumbs down?
Big thumbs up to the Magic Mike series. Well, much overlooked by members of our gender, despite the fact that there's actually a lot more female nudity than male nudity in that movie, despite all the himbo activities going on. It's based, I mean, Channing Tatum based it largely on his life as working as a male entertainer in
I
Florida.
actually did not know that. That's really interesting.
And the man I mean, he can really dance. It's amazing that someone with like a football player physique like that can just like be so agile and nimble and flexible. It really comes off as like a project from the heart. It's insanely dumb. You can watch it. You do not have to pay attention at all. I will say the love interest in the first one is absolutely one of the worst actresses I've ever seen in my life. To my knowledge, that's the only thing she's done. I can't remember her name, but she is someone's daughter. She's some industry, whatever's daughter. And he plugged her in this movie, and whoo boy, it's glaring. Even I mean, if your emotional range is being shown up by Channing Tatum, then you've got issues going on. No knocks on the guy, but it's not what he's most known for. And he comes off in that whole thing as just like being so, sincere and loving, whereas she's just like, oh, are you gonna stop being a stripper yet? Very interesting, very entertaining movies. Definitely recommend.
I think they're making a third.
I would be surprised if they didn't. The second
Also,
one
like,
honestly might be better because Joe Manganiello is in these, and in the first one he has like no dialogue. In the second one, he's kind of like a more focused upon character, and he's actually really funny and can act. And I don't know, it seemed like they underused him in the first one, so I was glad to see in the second one he got a little more screen time.
well, there you go. This is your content corner. We're providing you the crucial pop culture analysis you were looking for.
About movies that came out like 10 years ago.
Well, the Vonnegut one's fairly new.
Whatever. I don't watch new stuff.
Thumbs down from me, thumbs up from Sam. I will be checking out Magic Mike based upon that recommendation. So we got a few stories planned out. We're not this is a pretty freewheeling episode, so I just personally loved reading about this Mike Pence thing from the New York Times. I just really got a kick out of it.
So for context, are the January 6th hearings still going on?
They are. There was one today, like this morning.
I don't pay attention to that because nothing's gonna happen. It's just
Can I actually
thumb flapping. I don't know. You might have more of an input on it, but like
I agree with you totally. But I did watch the first night's hearings purely for the hog footage.
Absolutely. And you said you caught some hogs, some proud hogs.
Absolutely. Oh man, and there was footage. I having like really watched this footage. I watched multiple of the found footage documentaries. The one produced by the New York Times that we watched parts of on this show.
Absolutely.
And also the HBO
I am the storm.
I am the storm. And the 4 hours at the Capitol documentary on HBO. So I felt like I knew this footage pretty intimately, but there was definitely stuff I hadn't seen.
Can we talk about in the 4 hours at the Capitol one, the guy who like specifically brought joints to rock under the rotunda and then like got caught on camera boysing like in the rotunda, and instantly they used it to identify him and stuff. That's amazing. I saw that and I was like, number one, the stark privilege you would have to even begin to want to do that. But like, I don't know, to me, if I was going to storm the Capitol, which I've also always said that if I was there and like a ton of people were just running in, of course I wouldn't be there because I know what those people, they don't wear masks at their protests.
You lived pretty close at the time. You could have walked down there.
I could have made it out there. It's a nice and easy bike ride over to Capitol Hill from where I was in DuPont Circle. But yeah, I know that if I was like at a protest and some weirdo stuff like that happened, I would end up storming the Capitol. not because I want to like overturn the election, but just to feel something. I don't know. I can't help but shake at the end of the day. A lot of these people were just a lot of people who get into like politics on a goofy level like that. They just want to feel something.
Well, you obviously. We know the broad strokes. If you're fucking alive, you've heard what happened that day. But What we didn't know until the article that came out last week was the headline from the New York Times. For Mike Pence, January 6th began like many days. It ended like no other. An angry mob chanting, "Hang Mike Pence," came within 40 feet of the vice president. 40 feet. He spent nearly 5 hours in an underground loading dock, and the president called him a wimp and worse.
What could be worse than being called a wimp? Are you crazy? How deep
Can I
does this
just read?
go?
Let me just read a little bit here. He started the day with a prayer. Vice President Mike Pence preparing to withstand the final stage of a relentless campaign by President Donald J. Trump to force him to illegally try to overturn the results of the 2020 election began January 6, 2021, surrounded by aides at his official residence at the Naval Observatory, asking God for guidance. The group was expecting a difficult day, but what followed over the next 12 hours was more harrowing than they imagined. An angry mob with baseball bats and pepper spray chanting, "Hang Mike Pence," came within 40 feet of the vice president.
I'm not going to speak any further.
Mr.
But
Pence's
it's always interested to consider all the possibilities that could have happened.
Oh, Mr. Pence's Secret Service detail had to hustle him to safety and hold him for nearly 5 hours in the bowels of the Capitol, just as people were moving their bowels in Nancy Pelosi's office.
Yeah, Pence was just, plaintively looking at one of his Secret Service agents, like, "Please hold me." They're like, "What, for 5 hours underneath the Capitol?" He's like, "Just hold me."
So, a confidential witness apparently says that, told investigators the group would have killed Mr. Pence and Speaker Pelosi if they got the chance.
Now we joke
Like,
about
listen, like,
this, but like,
obviously that's bad.
of course, and now we joke about these people, the January 6th thing a lot. I don't want to minimize what probably would have happened if they had caught Nancy Pelosi or like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
I mean, the gallows were set up. I don't think that was just a prop. I mean, maybe it was just like a LARPing prop.
No,
but
only
sure
leftists do that. when right wingers do that, they mean it. Leftists do like the put a whatever guillotine in front of Jeff Bezos's house because you're never ever going to get the chance to do that. Whereas right wingers, I don't know. In some ways, they're more grounded in reality because they're able to manifest their political goals better than the left can. I don't know. Like if they bring it, they kind of mean it more than like if lefties always put up these like prop guillotines and stuff that are just like, "Oh, it's very cute that you and your little, arts and crafts crew made this," but it's not very serious.
I mean, a wimp. Do we really think that the wimp, like he definitely called him like a pussy, right? Oh yeah,
Sure.
yeah. Mrs. Radford said, okay, yeah. The president, Mrs. Radford said, use the P word. The New York Times. Hold on. The New York Times reported previously that Mr. Trump had told Mr. Pence, "You could either go down in history as a patriot or you can go down in history as a pussy." I can't do a good Trump voice, but like, damn, can you imagine how funny that would be? I wish I had a tape of that.
Oh, that would have been so good. I know, man. I don't know. It's very funny to me because Pence was never like he's a quintessential example of like the center of the Republican Party at that point where they were, in any other country they'd be seen as like foaming at the mouth right winger, wackos, but just in comparison to Trump, he's like, "I want the power. I don't really want to have to like go along with what you say all the time. I'm not really allowed to have dinner with women who aren't my wife, etc." Like Pence was such a weird counterpoint to Trump, and very indicative of like where the Republican Party's head was at that time.
But as we have seen, the ultimate goal here, overturning the election, like hasn't really gone away, and it seems to be like a leading fucking political issue, which for it to be, you almost have to ignore the fact that there was an angry mob who had like mace and baseball bats and were going to like hang the vice president. I mean, it is extreme.
Of course.
So you kind of like, I don't know, you have to really be ignoring that to be running with the stolen election claims, right? I mean, how could you reconcile the two?
I mean, yeah, like I've been thinking about this a lot because I think if you genuinely believed that the election had been stolen and that there's only you could say, which is what Trump was saying, like it was like only you guys can save this country from the Democrats. They're gonna, subject this place to a sick. It like it's like incitement in a weird way because it makes people, who are willing, who have the ability to act on what they, on their desires, like they have the means to travel to Washington. These are, I remember in the aftermath of this riot, everyone commenting on how most of the people there were like small business tyrants and stuff like that. It was people who had the means to schlep out to Washington and make signs and do all the LARPing that they want to do. But LARPing for the uninitiated is live action role playing. I feel like we've dropped that a couple times, and it's a very online term. But at any rate, like I feel like it was a serious thing because people were so, riled up and willing to do something. But at the same time, it's like somehow like the least serious group of people on earth because they all got in and were like, now what? And I don't doubt that if like some of them had caught, some of the politicians they find unsavory, they would have done something. But I mean, honestly, they were a bigger threat to themselves. They're the ones who lost people. They're the ones who
There were
who
some
died in the
casualties.
Capitol. Yeah.
I mean, like the woman was trampled, literally. The woman was Ashley Babbitt, obviously, was literally fucking blasted. I mean, although,
Yeah.
like, you've seen that video, she was climbing through with the guns pointed at her. What the hell did she think was going to
I
happen?
know. But I
These
feel like
people
it's a
thought they had impunity because of Trump. Like,
Of course.
how else can you explain it?
But even more than that, the thing that gets to me is that they thought it was like a movie. Like they think that they're
Yeah.
like in Braveheart or something like that. Like they think it's they really do. They think this is like the Patriot. They I feel like we're maybe at a stage where people genuinely can't tell the difference between TV and real life. And that was something where I was like, I can't believe they actually did this. Like, what did they think they were gonna do? They weren't like an organized, guerrilla unit doing like a coup d'etat. They're a bunch of like goofballs, but they could have actually done some, terrible stuff to individual people. So like, how do you? I don't know. Part of it is like very funny, obviously, but part of it is also, I mean, especially if you talk to DC natives, they don't find it funny at all. They're like, oh, they think it was like their 9/11, and they also claim 9/11 because of the Pentagon getting attacked on 9/11, which I'm like, okay, not very many people died in the Pentagon compared to like the Trade Center. Let us New Yorkers have that one, but I don't know. Weird to pin down, and it's very funny that Mike Pence. This article is very funny because it's so melodramatic, and it's a classic Maggie Haberman joint where it's based on like mostly hearsay from individual sources, and like her access is the main, her main like value add to this story is getting people close to Trump to get to say something that we could have all imagined, which is that Trump made fun of Mike Pence and called him a wimp or the P word, as you said. But yeah, I don't know. Reading this, it comes off. It's like it's the flip side of how those conservatives thought they were on TV. These liberals feel like they're in, a two-parter episode of The West Wing or something like that. Like
Oh my God.
nobody in this equation is viewing this as like something that happened in reality that has like real, causes, and like maybe there's a way we could avoid this from happening again in the future. It's just TV for both sides at this point. We really can't imagine anything other than what we're shown in movies.
This is real West Wing right here. At 3:50 a.m., as Mr. Pence and Mr. Short went their separate ways, Mr. Short texted his boss a passage from the Bible.
Oh.
I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith, the message read.
Wow, cool. Yeah, and that's it. There, that's even I don't know. You're viewing yourself as like, and of course, we all view ourselves through narrative and through storytelling. But see, I don't know. The self seriousness of this whole thing is kind of ridiculous. I don't know. It's like impossible to interpret the January 6th event, especially not through. I especially don't particularly care about analyzing it through Mike Pence's eyes because I can't relate to Mike Pence on any other level whatsoever.
Really, the 40 feet detail, which was as they were in the stairwell running towards the like freight area. That was when they were 40 feet from the mob, which, all things considered, like, yes, uh, anything could have happened, but it didn't. So what do you want to do? You know, like with
And
this thing,
what
I
does it
mean,
do for us to just like go out in the streets and say, Mike Pence is a hero?
which there not like that was going around like an Atlantic
That was
article that was
I feel like there was an Atlantic article that said that, which is probably open on my phone somewhere because I meant to talk about it on here. But
like it's essentially boils down to like the left should embrace Mike Pence as a hero or something, and it's just like the
this
guy
is an
doesn't think
anime. You
gay
can't like
people exist. Yeah.
yeah, like this is an anime. You can't just like make friends with Vegeta, who blows up planets. Like in anime, you can just make friends with a genocidal maniac. But in like real life, you kind of gotta still be able to critique Mike Pence just because he, I don't know, wasn't going along with this like nonsensical. I think it's so funny also when they say Trump, that Trump denying the election results was like his quote unquote big lie. The one moment where he became like a fascist. I was like, okay, it wasn't like the build a wall. It wasn't the, like any of the other stuff up to that point. It was like this one him just spewing nonsense, which anyone could have seen coming. They even if I remember like in 2016, having the feeling I was like, if he loses by the numbers, he's not going to take it lying down. He's going to be like, oh, Hillary cheated. Like this, I remember like this sinking feeling in my chest on election day when we all thought Hillary was going to win. Of just like Trump's not going away. Like we're not getting out of it this easy. I don't know, kind of all over the
we
place here, but
we didn't. um I don't know. Yeah, let's say he comes back, right? Pence stays silent. He's playing the long game.
yeah, no way in no world is Mike Pence doing, what like George Bush. I feel like has been getting a lot of favorable attention because he disagrees with Trump. But I'm like, I think part of that is a personal thing because Trump really bodied his brother in the debates like every time and made a laughing stock out of him. But I don't know like George Bush is like an elder statesman at this point. He's already been president. He doesn't need to win Republican votes anymore. If Pence still needs that, he's not going to become like a never Trumper. I don't know. We'll see. It would be so funny if Mike Pence was Trump's running mate in 2024 though.
Yeah. I don't know. I got a lot of stuff. I got a lot of stuff I've been like thinking about lately. But one thing we wanted to talk about is, well, okay, we can tie this all together. So this started maybe 2 weeks ago. There was this huge uproar in conservative media. And how much do they actually care about this? How much is this tied into sort of getting clicks to advertise fucking Disney products? I don't know, whatever. But there was this freak out over like boycott like Lightyear, the Buzz Lightyear movie, because there's a gay kiss.
Wow.
So
That's
can
hard.
you explain what what came after that? And we sort of want to address the panic recently that we've been noticing out
Yeah.
there regarding trans and gay people. It's June is Pride Month, is it not?
It is Pride, still Pride Month.
So we should we're two straight fellas. So well, let's give these issues some thought.
Yes. So Ben Shapiro, in describing the Lightyear movie, which can we talk about the Lightyear movie for like 1 second, just for context? Because if this is listened to in like 2020, 5. There, unless like the Lightyear thing has gone on to have like an extended cinematic universe, as everything does these days, then this would not make sense at any other point in time. This is it's a movie about Buzz Lightyear, but it's about the guy who inspired the toy within the Toy Story universe or
Buzz
something.
Lightyear, played by Tim Allen in the films Toy Story through Toy Story 4, is based upon Lightyear, the movie, featuring the character Buzz Lightyear, voiced by Chris Evans. And then Buzz Lightyear Star Command, the animated series, is a cartoon based on the movie that Andy's toy Buzz Lightyear is based on, played by Tim Allen.
So is this movie in the Toy Story universe? Like, did Andy go see Lightyear, the movie that's coming out?
Very late in the process, that was added in.
Wow. Okay, so it's weirder than I thought it was. Again, it's I'm still not quite sure I understand. I like, apparently, but there's a circular way that we're getting a movie about Buzz Lightyear or something. And yes, there is supposedly a lesbian couple of color. And Ben Shapiro on Twitter here has pulled out a screen cap of this couple, which looks like any other kind of Disney Pixar thing. Says Disney works to push a, quote, not at all secret gay agenda, unquote, and seeks to add, quote, queerness to its programming, according to executive producer LaToya Ravenue. Parents should keep that in mind before deciding whether to take their kids to see Lightyear, which hits theaters this week. And this is like a really good way to get into this, because it's not even like, obviously the movie isn't saying like, hey kids, you should become gay. It's just showing a gay couple or a
they
lesbian
exist
couple.
on screen.
It's just acknowledging that they exist. And this is what they're mad at. It's not even like they don't genuinely think that they're the indoctrination, you know, because liberals like hear about the current panic of like in schools, you know, how the conservatives are all saying like the LGBT agenda is being pushed on our children. They're being told that they have to be non-binary and stuff like that. Like, everyone knows that that's not what they actually mean, is that they are teaching kids that like, actually it's probably okay if you are you know, queer or non-binary or anything else. You should be respected the same as if you were somebody else. Like, and that idea is what they're trying to suppress, which is a very crucial distinction, I feel like.
I feel like we also should mention the log cabin Republicans were banned from what event? Could you look that up?
I didn't hear about this, but yeah, I am gonna look this up.
So
then, Dan, where are you gonna go? No.
Jesus, I'm not a log cabin Republican.
So yeah, it looks like no, it was the Texas GOP, which yeah, Texas is like one of the epicenters of this, which I resent, because like I found it so annoying how everyone's like, oh, Texas is the center of like everything bad happening. But in this case, it really kind of, I don't know, it's like Texas and Florida are like the two places where this, I feel like this fervor is at a like a fever pitch. But yeah, Texas GOP called being gay abnormal and banned log cabin Republicans from the state party convention. That's a pretty big deal. I don't know, like, they must really think that they are secure, because I feel like over the years, the Republican Party, despite all of, you know, Trump's kind of divisive rhetoric or whatever, he did expand his gains with people of color and with you know, other demographic. He had got more votes in 2020 than he did in 2016, and a lot of those gains were with like Latino people, Asian Americans, etc. And generally, I thought the way the GOP would hold on to power is by broadening its conception of whiteness, which it does like all the time. And that's why, Dan, we Jews, and you know, you being an Italian, you're now white, whereas in the 20s we would have been the most oppressed people in the U.S. But just kidding. Either way, normally, yeah, they expand because they need to bring people into the fold, and you can convince anybody to be reactionary. Trust me on this one. It does not matter what color you are. But in this case, they're being really narrow, and they're like I mean, the fact that they would exclude like loud camera Republicans are not even like controversial. I feel like it's like a running, it's almost like a joke that's been going on for ages, but pretty accepted member of the coalition. And I feel like banning them that's pretty serious. I don't know.
Yeah, I
I'm
was
just hearing
surprised to
about
see
this
that.
now.
Yeah.
This is the first I'm hearing about it.
Oh God. Now here vamp, because I'm gonna pull that video up because we need a breather.
Yeah. So I mean, let's see. They refused a booth to a gay conservative group, which was the Lopcam Republicans. Looks like during this same event, neo-Confederate Party activists also declared the 2020 presidential election illegitimate. So, like, secessionists are fine, but gay people no can do. Yeah, I don't know what to make of this. I mean, this is like even I couldn't have really seen this one coming. I felt like the log cabin Republicans would just go on doing their I don't know what they're thinking with being Republicans, given that the Republicans want to end all their rights for the most part and see them as like an existential threat to the American dream. But we do need a bit of a palate cleanse. So here's Trump finding out that RBG has died.
He's on the some people might not have actually seen this video, which is so like ingrained in my brain like at this point, like since
I think
saw
about
it,
this
like, the
video
night it
once a
happened.
day, minimum once a day.
I think about this video all the time. Should we tee this up a little bit? I mean, Trump is just finding out that Ruth Bader Ginsburg has died. He has not heard.
He's getting back. He's on the tarmac and he's like headed back to the plane after a convention. And that's
Tiny
why
Dancer is blaring from the stage
because Trump loves Elton John, which is a great piece of Trump lore. And Elton John, of course, is not thrilled about the fact that Trump plays his songs at his rallies, but I guess he can't do anything about it, or he doesn't feel like he needs to do anything about it. Who knows?
He just died?
He just died?
Wow. I didn't know that. You're telling me now for the first time. She led an amazing life. What else can you say? She was an amazing woman. Whether you agreed or not, she was an amazing woman who led an amazing life. I'm actually sad to hear that. I am sad to hear that. Thank you very much.
Sad. Yeah.
I'm actually saddened to hear that. Oh,
this is so beautiful too. I love how he like walks away as the tiny dancer playing. Like it feels like it was dubbed over, but you can tell that it's playing in the background there based on the way it sounds. It's so cinematic. I don't know how they managed to capture this moment in time, but
it's so beautiful.
That was what I was referencing with that one.
Sorry, but we were in the middle of a segment about the recent gay panic. I don't know. You started. I don't know. We that's when we started like kind of between our like DMs. We were like kind of tracking like, oh wow, that's like pretty vocal like homophobic stuff coming from pretty mainstream Republican sources, and then it was like the anti-trans rhetoric recently has been absolutely disgusting and outrageous.
Yeah, it's
from
monstrous.
Like politicians. I mean, it's literally like they're in some states making laws where it's like mandatory to report like parents whose children are allowed to be out transgender. So and Bill Maher had this, he's just some fucking idiot, but it's like, I guess this is how some people think. They're like, well, in California there's so many trans kids, why aren't there so many in fucking the heartland? And it's like, because why. There it's like illegal, like
is why.
Yes, like there's laws,
right.
He's an idiot, but I think a lot of people might have that idea that like, oh, it's like a cult, it's like culturally indoctrinated into like I honestly, it's like it's hard to really describe like the root of their panic, because it feels like it runs so deep, and it is like a throwback, but it's also like it's never left.
No, I mean, but it is different from like the I don't know, the Bush era homophobia and Defense of Marriage Act era discourse, because back then it was mostly predicated on religion. Now it's not. Now it's predicated on children. And the idea is that like these, that LGBTQ people are indoctrinating your children. And of course, the place that they're choosing to litigate this at is in schools, because Republicans would love to end public education. They have wanted that for a good bit of time. Far too many Black and brown and poor people are getting good quality education in the U.S. And their little Chad. I don't know. Give me like a really goofy, waspy name. Braywin,
Chumsley,
yeah, like Tag is not going to be allowed
Aiden.
to. They're not going to be allowed to. They're going to be denied spots at Yale because of affirmative action. All this nonsense that they spew, and they've been spewing this for a long time. But this one is like a concerted effort, and I feel like the best like piece that I've found to explain it, even though it's about the parallel panic over critical race theory and whether critical race theory is being taught in school, and this is like a masterwork of misinformation, because critical race theory is not taught in elementary schools. It is mostly taught in like law school because it's a legal theory. But you can kind of, it doesn't matter. And there's a recent ProPublica article by Nicole Carr. The headline is "White Parents Rallied to Chase a Black Educator Out of Town." Then they followed her to the next one, and it talks about this woman who was like a school professional in like Maryland, which is more diverse, and it's Maryland, like right outside DC. And then she wanted to take a job in Cherokee County, Georgia, which is like a suburb of Atlanta. And as soon as I heard that, my heart rate started increasing, because I don't know, something about suburbs around, like exurbs around cities like that are, like Atlanta or DC, where there's a lot of like, a lot of diversity, a lot of liberalism. That's where like people from those like exurbs who fled the city to like avoid, Black and brown people and want to live in like white enclaves are the most disturbing people by far, and they get the most atavistic. And this story is crazy because she's like they hear phrases like critical race theory and diversity, equity, and inclusion, and they get boiled down to acronyms, and it becomes like a signifier. Like they don't actually care what critical race theory is. They see it all as like this all encompassing, and they wrap it up with like the LGBTQ panic to be like these people are enforcing Marxism and anti-Americanism and trying to teach your kids to hate you. And I
it
feel like
doesn't
that's
speak much for the open-mindedness that they claim to have in that culture. Like it's
No.
like it's like there's that, but it's also like if you believe that there's this indoctrination happening, like you haven't implanted this hate into your kids, like
Right.
you haven't really trained them to have hateful beliefs. So like, you know what I mean? It's like, what are they actually afraid of them learning is like to not
be a bigot. That's what they're afraid of. Yeah. Of course, like they will tell you that like kids go to school and they're told all day that they're bad people because they're white or something like that. I don't even think that they actually think that's happening. I think that they may hear that, but I think it's more the association. I think it's more the like, and it's a really good way for them to launder their racism and homophobia, because now they can say, if their majority white school district hires a Black woman, they can be like, oh, this person's going to teach CRT. We don't want her there because she, and they all the people who organize, and this story about Cecilia Lewis, that educator from Maryland who went down to Georgia, is really crazy because it goes into how well organized people are, and how there are groups basically teaching people across the country, teaching parents in school districts how to fight back when the school hires someone they don't want them to hire. And this has been happening like all over the country, and it's great to get a really close look at it with this one account. And honestly, Cecilia Lewis is super brave for coming forward with the story in the first place, given how wacko people were. There's accounts of people in Facebook groups in Cherokee County claiming that they had spotted her around town when she was living in Maryland. So clearly they were just seeing black people who they thought looked like her or something, and were just like they're able to launder their racism and homophobia and bigotry behind like, oh, they're messing with our kids, they're grooming our kids to think a certain way, they're like indoctrinating our kids. And of course, you could say like the U.S. education system indoctrinates kids, just it doesn't indoctrinate them into accepting gay people. And if it is, then that's a good thing. That's like one of the good forms of indoctrination. But it's not even about that. It's about the presence of these concepts and the fact, and they're sick of being told they have to accept this. They really would rather not. I think there's also, I mean, I know I'm rambling, but the last thing is like, there's a big religious component to this, even though it's not explicit. I remember there was one point at which people were like, after Uvalde, which is an ongoing shit show now to this day, liberals were like, conservatives would rather see guns in school than, gay people. They'd rather see kids dead than accepting of homosexuality. And for evangelicals, yeah, they 100% would, because if a child dies and is killed at a school, they go to heaven, no big deal. If a child lives a long life as a happy gay man, they go to hell. They see it. I think a lot of people genuinely see it that way.
So we see so many examples of the trans panic now, when it seemed like a mainstream acceptance of transgender culture, something was like moving in a certain direction in the last 5 years, but in the last couple of months, it's just seemed like there is a strong, well-funded, in very mainstream circles in politics, like a concerted effort to genocide these people. I mean, like,
Yeah, I mean,
what
there are
is
politicians
the
saying that
argument? What is the
basically, like-
argument here that the right wing is making?
No, I think that like the masterminds of this just want people who are LGBTQ to go back in the closet. But I think that there's a growing vocal sentiment that's like, rolling down the hill with this. And yeah, it's not uncommon to see politicians talk really crazy about what they think should happen to trans people. And this is giving them a license to just spew bigotry, because that's all it really comes down to. There's no actual threat, to them. But yeah, I feel like where we maybe want to go from here is like having laid out the facts. Like the thing that's really getting to me now is because from Ron DeSantis or Greg Abbott, you expect this kind of nonsense. They're foaming at the mouth freaks. But the way it's like getting accepted or like whitewashed by people in the center or on the quote unquote left is really heinous. Like that interview with Hillary Clinton where she says like trans people's rights is like a boutique niche marginal political concern. That's so heartless, and that's how this happened. That's what's gonna be the because if it was just wacko Republicans saying this kind of stuff, it wouldn't be a big deal. Well, I mean, it would be a big deal, but it wouldn't be as big a deal as
it is right.
Seeing it be accepted by the moderates is really brutal. So maybe we should talk about some of the moderates who are accepting this now.
Right, and it's I think it's indicative of her, her feeling comfortable of saying that. Like it's always through 10 layers of PR and coaching. So that's clearly what the focus groups are saying to say is this is an issue that is expendable, and it is an issue that is in fact losing us seats. Right. And if you defend this vocally, if you defend these people, guess what? You're out of a job. But again, like, Jesus, can you think of a more like fucking irrelevant person to take advice from in the terms of like victory?
I was gonna say, she's only ever won an election in like New York, which in New York, I think they're actually pretty accepting of trans people relative to say Florida or Texas. But yeah, I mean, like,
it's bleak. It feels like we're just sitting here watching, like, even living in New York, yeah, it's fine here, but
Go out to those
these
suburbs, it's not so fine.
right.
Like
I
where
mean,
we're from is definitely had weirdos who showed up to not like, I don't know if it was like super recently, but it was like last year or so. Weirdos showing up to protest supposed CRT in the and people out there were talking. This is a new supposedly liberal New Jersey, and these people were talking
no,
like
it's been
pretty
reported out that
wacko.
there's oath keepers, people tied to January 6th, in that community. So, that's just people are saying. What do we know? People are saying.
More and more people are saying this, but I don't know. So my biggest bone to pick is with honestly right now I'm just gonna call him out by name. Matt Taibbi jumping on this bandwagon is
Can I
so
just say?
shameful.
Can I just say, like, we don't have to spend, I don't want to spend a ton of time just like breaking down like the fall of like a formerly cool like lefty writer, but like in like 30 seconds, like, I mean, we can both just summarize it. Like, he was one of the smartest writers about the Bush administration, about the financial crisis. Like, if you were of our political persuasion, he was definitely part of that education. Is, you know, I mean, his book Insane Clown President, great book about the Trump campaign. I still have it in my closet. I read his Substack for a while, listened to Useful Idiots, the podcast, for a couple years. He was one of my guys, and he sucks now. Sam, could you that was qualifier saying this guy was good and now is bad. A story that is all too common in
Yeah.
digital media.
No, and there's definitely I wouldn't be surprised if he's on the Peter Thiel payroll of all these like quote unquote new right weirdos who are laundering it's like the Tucker Carlson thing where he says that like or Glenn Greenwald does this too, where he says like the real elites are, trans school teachers as opposed to like Tucker Carlson, who's like, isn't he like one of the heirs to like the Swanson frozen dinner company or something
Yes.
like that? He's like, these like people who like by any measure, people say like Elon Musk, who is of course also on this anti-trans bandwagon, are not elites and that they're sticking it to the elites. I'm like, he is by many measures one of the richest men in the world. I don't know how much more elite you get than that, but apparently I'm a dumbass. But yeah, I don't know. With Matt Taibbi, I feel like the first thing that put it on my radar was when he said that lefties were becoming like Twitter Robespierres, and that they were. Do you remember this? He had like this.
No.
It's he had like a screed about cancel culture, and people were like, "Why are you talking about this?" Is like kind of outside. And since then, it's been a gradual fall in terms of him just, I don't know, taking
Really
bad faith.
post Bernie campaign, I think, is when a lot of these guys pivoted to, I think, whatever was generating literally the most clicks. Like, he left Rolling Stone to do the Substack thing, which is like building your own, newsletter, paid audience. I don't even think his paid tiers like get anything extra. I think people just pay because they pay, which also makes you wonder, who are these people? Who's paying? Who's actually reading this shit? I have my own questions about where all that money comes from, and anyone who's giant on Patreon, you have to wonder if the money is organic. I mean, even
Sure.
the people we like.
Of course. And I mean, it is the position of this podcast that the CIA funds Chapo Trap House. No, I'm kidding. But either way, yeah, with Taibbi, I feel like he really hit a new low by Well, can we also talk about the like thing where he really threw Mark Ames under the bus for when he got canceled for writing like some kind of like gonzo satirical bawdy stuff about life in Russia in the
And like
early in the 90s.
doing stuff with sex workers and things. I don't know. It doesn't matter. So
Matt Taibbi's position on that though was like, I didn't write any of the bad stuff. Mark Ames wrote all the bad stuff. I did not do a single thing, which is very cool for the guy who claims that he's like a brave truth teller. But with this, the most recent thing he did was he's number one, he's given a favorable review to the laughable Matt Walsh movie, What is a Woman? Which the jokes on this thing write itself. Did you see like it was some like, young freedom dipshits college group watching it, and they were like, we hosted a screening, and it was all these like virginal 18-year-olds, and they were like, I was like, I mean, like the jokes write themselves. Like they set themselves up to be dunked on because clearly none of them had ever been anywhere near a woman. And maybe that was why they were watching the movie. But this movie basically pushes people to, gender theorists and stuff to explain what their definition of a woman, which is the word woman has many definitions and can be used to describe many kinds of people. But and it's easy to answer the question, but he goes in and just basically tries to argue that they're all goofy and that the common sense idea that a woman is someone with a vagina is what should prevail. Like these people are all cranks, and in your heart your bigoted ideas are true. That's basically the theme of the movie. There's a very good Nate Robinson takedown of it that we should put in the show notes, because there's no reason to watch this thing or even really talk about it other than to denounce it. But the other thing he did was interview this another kind of like turfy crank who is Kara Lansky, I think is her name. And this one got me because, of course, I'm a masochist, so I get the Matt Taibbi, the free version of his Substack sent to my phone so I can see what nonsense he's on about, defending Eric Weinstein, another cancel culture guy.
Another Peter Thiel, like, buddy
exactly.
/ recipient.
Yeah, contrarian shithead, honestly, is what I'm calling these people from now on. But yeah, all these people, what they really do is just launder these talking points for the right. And the Kara Lansky thing was so ridiculous because she, the interview with her started out with like, I wanted to go on MSNBC or the New York Times to just explain this, but for some reason I could only ever get on Tucker Carlson on like conservative TV. And then like in the next paragraph, and the next quote from her, Matt Taibbi says like, oh, I have a friend who insists on using she, her pronouns. She's a trans woman. And this person said, respectfully, although I don't think your friend is doing this, the insistence on pronouns is actually designed to confuse you. Like she basically like says that it's people insisting on the pronouns that they want to use is a plot to rot your brain and confuse you. And this is the argument that's supposedly like so dangerous that it can't be on MSNBC. When that one really got to me because there's a couple things going on there. Number one, your argument is dumb. That's why you're not getting on your preferred.
The problem isn't that they're afraid to debate you. The problem is your ideas are such shit that like they're so stupid that there's not time for this.
No.
On the major $1 million broadcast networks.
Not to mention, if you want to be a crank, it's pretty easy to get on MSNBC and be a crank. I don't know. There's a lot of weirdos on there. And the fact that she was like, I got on all these other networks, which have all these viewers, but it wasn't my preferred, like they want to be there. They wasn't my preferred, center left channels that put me on. I'm like, so you really are just trying to get these ideas to be accepted by the center and the left. Like you're laundering this kind of bigoted, right, inherently like right-wing speech for people who don't see themselves that way. And even she, I could tell, was a little incensed at the fact that she was relegated to the, the ghetto of conservative news media. And it's very funny because I'm like, well, you guys are conservatives. You can try this all you want, but you're forwarding a conservative argument. Like you're saying that things shouldn't change. You're saying that people shouldn't. I mean, like the pronouns thing is so ridiculous. I work in a law firm and I have my pronouns in my signature. Like all my coworkers do as well. And that every law firm I've worked at since like 2020, it's been the same. I don't know what, like it was like, we were, like you said, we were kind of like hurtling towards acceptance. And then this is like, I think a recognition of that and a huge effort to turn things back. It's revanchism, I think is the right word for it. But
do you think though that, I don't know, Taibbi by engaging is doing some service that someone out there has got to do who is vaguely left-wing, I guess?
Every time I see that argument, I just I'll like see, okay, so who are these people that you're trying to say should be, you know, uh,
Right.
accepted? And it's Matt Walsh and it's Kara Lansky and what he had another one recently. I don't know, it's flipping. It was another like this is now his. Oh, he's on this like this lawsuit basically where like about trans women being held in prisons with you know, women who are assigned female at birth. um and he's calling this, you know, the biggest legal case that no one's talking about when I don't know, it reminds me of like the Loudoun County like assault that happened where they claim there's this claim that a trans girl was, you know, actually a boy trying to get in the lot, like to assault women. And this blew up into a huge thing, and it was like very mismanaged. And I'm not remembering the details that well, but it's another one of these things. And I'm like, so this is, I don't know, like I don't think there's a middle ground on this. I don't think that you can't write about these people, but if you're gonna be credulous about it, like there's a way to do it, and Nate Robinson's great at this, where you can genuinely lend credence to their argument while showing how it's wrong. And I think he's brilliant at that. And there's a way you could do that, and that's fine. But that's not what he's doing there. It's very credulous interviews with these people. It's very credulous coverage of, you know, the What Is a Woman movie and of this case. It's just like, I don't know. I don't.
It also just fucking sucks, dude. It's like
It's also
you're
bad
promoting
writing,
like
yeah.
shit content and shit ideas. Like, why don't you just like talk to Naomi Klein or like write about Wall Street or crypto? There's like so much shit going on that his brand of journalism would match great to, but instead he's just writing this like, I don't know, just complete I don't know. I think we can allegedly fucking Peter Thiel funded talking point newsletter with his name on it.
Wouldn't be surprised. And Peter Thiel's pretty open about, well, I mean, it's an open secret that he meets with a lot of people in this sphere. Anyone who's on Rumble or whatever, like the what is that, like it's like a right-wing YouTube alternative. I think that's what it's billed as, but it's just more of this stuff. It's places for cranks to deliver screeds about that launder bigotry and under the guise of logic and reason, which is, you know, very crummy. But I don't know. There's something to me that gets more mad at someone like Taibbi for doing this than even someone like Ron DeSantis, who, I don't know. I guess Ron DeSantis, you know, he has more power to do this sort of shit, but like, it's almost like you expect it from him. Whereas like, there's the only reason Taibbi's doing this is for clicks, and that's like so banal. It's not even any real power. It's just attention. And like,
he's got tens of millions of dollars. The man's a best-selling author and wrote at Rolling Stone consistently forever. I mean, his father was in broadcast journalism, I believe, at NBC. I mean, the guy's you know,
he's got plenty.
The guy's
of money.
doing fine. There's no need to do this.
It's just for attention, and I don't.
I think honestly, you know, like tracing it back, I think retribution at what happened to him with Mark Ames, you know, that he was canceled like back in 2018 or 2017 or whatever it was.
Maybe he was radicalized.
Basically, after he wrote that book about Eric Garner, he just fucking tumbled down a hill and never came back.
Yeah,
like he's really far gone. And you know, but this is something we can like kind of like, there's one more point of this debate that I want to touch on, but can we just also touch on this idea that like we've seen it happen a lot now as like veterans of the online, you know, world, like the
Class
fall of
the
the fall, well no, just like the cool lefty media figure who, like, you know, we're all in on, who just falls. Now what do you think links these cases?
I feel like it's usually like a bad take, or I don't want, not like they're being canceled for having a bad take, but they find a way to fall into this like post-left thing, or they just get canceled for some personal thing, you know, crummy thing they did. Because a ton of these people, you know, are creeps in real life, and that's
yeah, I mean, it takes a certain type of person to be like staring at your fucking phone all day, but you know, we don't have to analyze.
we couldn't hack it because we're too normal, honestly.
Yeah,
That's
we're
how I
normal.
write off.
No, but Elon's situation relates to what we've been discussing.
Yeah. So I brought up Elon. I wanted to talk about Elon Musk because Taibbi, of course, wrote his Puff interview with Karolansky, and then he this credulous coverage of what is a woman and how nobody's willing to talk about this movie. Shouldn't it be reviewed? Isn't it important? No, it's not. It's stupid. That's why no one's reviewed it. But he, of course, wrote that. Then, when there was predictable backlash to this, which is what these people feed on, he wrote an article about the blowback, because that's what all this is just discourse, clicks, content. And Elon Musk replied to Matt Taibbi, sharing his comeback to the blowback to his "What is a Woman" article. Like we're on like 4 levels of comebacks here. Elon Musk replied favorably and said, "We are simultaneously being told that gender differences do not exist and that genders are so profoundly different that irreversible surgery is the only option. Perhaps someone wiser than me can explain this dichotomy." And people rightfully pointed out that Elon Musk has absolutely had gender affirming surgery in the form of the plugs and fillers that his hair plugs and his fillers in his face that make him look more masculine and hot. That's like that. That's pretty irreversible, my guy. I mean, I don't know. Can you take those fillers out? I mean, my understanding is they just like fall apart, and you have to keep pumping them up to keep him even looking normal. So I mean, no shade on that, but don't act like this is something that only trans people do. And Elon Musk also, I think, endorsed Ron DeSantis in Florida, who is one of the heads of this anti-trans agenda. Yeah, Dan's pulling up a before and after of Elon Musk when he was when he was young and hungry and bald and weird looking when he first sold PayPal. I don't think he like fully created it. And then now where he has given himself a jawline, given himself a much better hairline. I mean, that is gender affirming surgery. And it's never, I mean, cis people actually probably get it more than, or at least numerically are responsible for more gender affirming surgeries in the US than trans people ever could be. But that's not what this is about. It's about bigotry, and it's about something personal too, I think. Because what I really think, and I think the reason children are like the focus and schools are the focus of this now, what I think it is that these parents are realizing that their kids hate them. Their parents are these kids are being told that they should are correctly seeing that they should be accepting of one another and not be prejudiced. And their parents are not coming to the realization. And so these kids hate their parents because their parents are backwards, rude, obnoxious, probably difficult to take out in public. And we just found out, and we don't need to like, a lot of people were getting mad about how widely this story has gotten shared, but Elon Musk's daughter is trans, and she has recently changed her name and basically tried to emancipate herself from him now that she's 18 because she hates him. And I as soon as I saw that, I was like, it's armchair psychoanalyzing, but at the same time, I was like, that's got to be it. Like his daughter hates him, and because he's probably not on board with this sort of stuff. And when you feel that, when it's something that's close to you like that, it leads you to find any kind of like reason that it's not your fault. It's not my fault. My kids hate me. The school told me that. The school taught my kids that they have to hate me. I think a large part of that, this honestly boils down to that.
I really feel bad for his daughter. I mean, it fucking sucks. Imagine if your dad was literally like a force for fucking evil in the world and had directly caused the suffering of thousands and thousands of people. And also the cars blow up and don't work, but that's another story. So I don't know. This topic could go on and on. The LGBTQ panic that the right is pushing right now, and honestly portions of the moderate center and Hillary
And
Clinton.
even less, there's some weirdo
and
post-leftists
left
who are
wing,
like
yeah.
anti-identitarian to a fault, and see, they say the same thing as Hillary Clinton, basically, is that we do mass politics, we don't do marginal politics. But this is why you have to do marginal politics. Like, you can't exclude people, because then the majority uses it. That's what we're against, is the powerful being able to step on the weak. And that's what's happening here. And that's why it's so shitty when people like Taibbi launder that, because it's nothing more than that. But they're trying to lend credence to, like, oh, maybe the trans people are are the ones with the power here, which is, I don't know.
Imagine putting your name on that shit. Like so embarrassing. Don't you
I
have like a
know.
family? Like, what are you doing?
Whew. Well,
I mean, whatever. Let's wrap this one up. What I don't know. This was kind of a serious one. Jesus.
it got serious, but we're gonna lighten it up on the way out, because this panic is, there's a lot of darkness to it, but there's also a lot of really, really goofy and funny shit. I'm thinking specifically of Tim Allen recently tweeting that he took some kids to Disneyland, and overheard a 13-year-old boy wondering if he may be pansexual since he loves skillets. This
Huh?
there's a lot going on here. Number one, took some kids. Which your kids? Your grandkids? Who are these kids? Isn't that what they're all upset about? Is that, like, how can you?
Yeah, Tim, specify, really. Also, Patricia Heaton, I believe, tweeted that that Buzz Lightyear was castrated by Tim Allen's being recast. So
Yes.
let's just throw that in there. Castration was mentioned in the same.
I think the
Tim
other reason the conservatives are mad about Lightyear is because Tim Allen didn't get to reprise his role, but he played the toy, not the movie. So there's a canonical reason for this, apparently. But also, of course, they have to see it through their us versus them lens, and they're like, he's an proud, outspoken conservative, and liberal Hollywood can't tolerate that. But either way, yeah. So a 13-year-old, even if this is like true, if a 13-year-old said this, who cares? 13-year-olds say dumb shit all the time. Say stuff that's not real. This is nicer than a lot of things I was saying when I was 13, honestly. I was a little shithead back then. And yeah, it's a weird tweet. I don't know. What do you make of this, Stan?
Well, Tim Allen, to be honest with you, like, who is like talking about their sexuality like at like Disney World? Like, everyone's focused on what they're doing that day. Like, it's a fucking theme park. It's not like a cultural like it's not like there's some sort of fucking like there's not something in the air that suddenly people are just saying their deepest thoughts. I mean, it's a fucking amusement park. So I think Tim is fucking lying, and he just like read about some shit on fucking Facebook.
Yeah, one of those days where you're like, I got to tweet something. Like, let's come up with something.
And I feel like he was getting a little heat from the Lightyear thing. Dude, he's got so much money. He's great. He's doing great.
He's doing fine. He's got all that money from Wild Hogs, which we didn't we like there was a story we did like at least a year or two ago where it was like the top grossing movie of 2021 or something, like it was like half of what like Wild Hogs made in 2008 or something.
Right. Yeah. Like the cinematic industry has collapsed. Well, thanks to Tom Cruise's one listener is going to hate me for bringing this up, but like the Tom Cruise's top grossing movie ever, Top Gun Maverick. I saw it. You haven't seen it yet, have you?
I have not seen it yet, and I've never seen the original either.
The original is fucking horrible. It was so boring. I hated it, but you have to watch it before you watch Maverick, which was awesome.
All right. I'll suffer through it. I'm thinking there's a drive-in theater not too far from where I'm at now, so I'm thinking about maybe seeing it there. I think that could be a fun experience.
I have to say, planes go fast, fun.
I like that Tom Cruise these days is like, when I make a movie, I have to like leap into a volcano. I have.
Dude, they put out a trailer for Mission Impossible. Like, it's not coming out till 2023. Like, it's so early for that.
I know.
Hey, listen.
But so it's parallel to the conservative panic, there's I don't know, a little bit of a liberal. I don't want to like say that it's the same thing because liberals aren't as wacky as maybe impulsive is the right word for
They're not as
this.
genocidal, maybe.
There's also that, yeah. At least not in this case, but apparently a bunch of Hollywood libs have come together. Judd Apatow, Mark Ruffalo, Jimmy Kimmel, Damon Lindelof, Adam McKay, Julianne Moore, Shonda Rhimes, Eli Roth, Mark Ruffalo, he's on there a second time, and Amy Schumer. They're around the
if you have
first.
if you have an empty vapid event or cause, she's your
She's
girl.
there. Yeah, she's there for you. Shout out to Amy Schumer. Just kidding.
Yeah,
They're
come
among
on
the
the
first
show.
round. Sure. Yeah, she'll take us up. These are some of the names that are on the first round of signatures for a petition calling for the film and TV industry to re-examine its influence on national gun violence in the U.S. And this is interesting. This is like a
Ugh.
80s liberal thing. This is like a PMRC sort of thing.
I was thinking that. So we're taking it back to the age when like heavy metal is causing violence, like this. Like it reminds me of the Satanic Panic again, like
or the fear that Marilyn Manson inspired, the Columbine shootings, searching for like any answer, any idealistic answer to why this sort of stuff happens here more than anywhere else.
or specifically like what can I like, it's all centered around them. It's like, what can we do? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, actually the answer is you can't do anything.
Right, because
this issue is not yours to do anything about.
I think
so the idea that you are so self-centered to think that people like China fucking has the most violent movies anywhere, like there's no mass shootings like there is here,
and there are material reasons for that. Like it's not because of like people don't like watch movies and then it inspires them to get like you have to be able to purchase a gun, you have to be able to find it, you have to be able to afford it, you have to know where to get it, you have to have the training to know how to use it. Like there are material reasons for why gun culture is so widespread in the US, and material reasons for why it's not the case, that's not the case in China and places like that. But there's any effort to like avoid it is worthwhile for these people. But also you nailed it when you were saying these are a bunch of Hollywood sickos who spend all day trying to be like, I want to make, another $10 million off of a movie that has fart jokes in it and stuff. And they're trying to find meaning in that because really all they do is worship. They create art, but like they're worshiping Moloch. They're worshiping the unholy dollar. That's what they're actually doing for a living. And that corrodes your soul. And it leads you, in moments like this where you become more aware of your humanity, when you're forced to grapple with the knowledge that children were massacred by an automatic rifle, that inspires like a sense of like nihilism and hopelessness in you, or you choose to ascribe meaning to what it is that you're doing, and you're like, oops, yes, I must have caused this somehow, so I'm gonna hold myself accountable, and now I can change it. It's faith in your own abilities, but in like two different ways there. Because like
kind of what it's that like I don't know, it's that modern like sort of like your personal like your own, like you have to prove you're a good person, and like if you're a prominent figure, like if you're not making these like gestures, then like you're part of the problem, or at least like you're like the reality is these people know that like Mitch McConnell's not going anywhere. Like the shit that actually matters is like they have no chance to affect, and they'll tell you like vote for Amy McGrath, that like Josh Gad will like fucking cry into the camera and tell you to vote for Amy McGrath to defeat Mitch McConnell. But the reality is, I mean, there's nothing these people can do. So what can they do? They can make movies less cool.
Yeah.
Like John Wick can't like shoot the like, what are you gonna do? Take guns? I don't even know what they're proposing, honestly. So
no, it's just a letter saying It's full of liberal pablum. You know, considering there have been over 250 other mass shootings so far this year, it's almost an incomprehensible tragedy. Talking about Uvalde, quote, something needs to be done. Like that's always the language. Someone needs to do something, but I don't know, not me. I'm just all I can do personally is say that someone else should do something because my job is to make millions of dollars and buy multiple houses by making a bunch of crappy movies. When if you actually cared, you could just, you know, become an advocate for this sort of stuff, but you don't. It just makes you sort of feel bad. And so you go out and do some performative nonsense like this. I don't know. Like it's again overstating and understating your own power to change the situation. Like assuming that you have the power to cause a mass shooting, but also assuming that you don't have the power to you know, do something outside of movie making to avert a mass shooting. Like, I don't know.
I don't know. Closing it out, the Uvalde police are covering up something extraordinary that we don't know for sure yet, but today we found out as we record the day we record this is June 21st, the door where the gunman was gunning down the child victims and the I believe two teachers, I can't remember
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah, 19 students, 2 teachers.
And they in a conference today confirmed that the door was not locked from the inside. There was no need to find a key, which had been previously reported that they couldn't find the key, which was honestly like a Benny Hill sketch. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? You can't find the key. And then like the fucking the team had a shield and automatic weapons ready to go within 3 minutes. They could have gone in 3 minutes. They didn't go in for over an hour.
Right. And they had all the toys that they claim they need. They had every license to be able to go in there and use whatever level of force that they claim they need to be able to use on unarmed, you know, black men. But when it came down to it, they chickened out and they blamed everyone but themselves. And on a certain level, it seems like they also just bungled it. Like it seems like they were just the levels of incompetence from what I've heard out of that are insane. Man, the other weird Uvalde story is that it might be torn down. The Robb Elementary, not the entire town of Uvalde, luckily. But and apparently this is like common, not uncommon. In the past, like Newtown Public Schools and Santa Fe schools have received grants to tear down the school after a mass shooting. I'm not sure what the rationale of that is, but that would
maybe
be
it's
such an
like
odd
literally too
way.
traumatic to like bring students back there,
Yeah,
like physically. I don't know.
it would be really dark if they rebuilt it with just one entrance, like all the wackos on Fox News were saying that that school should have.
Yeah, one entrance with like an armed like teacher, like a former vet. Like, remember that guy who was a politician who was saying like we should hire the former vets, you know? Like, these people are fucking stable, and I'm nothing against veterans, but like, Jesus Christ, you know?
Yeah, come
I don't
on.
need these fucking guys who couldn't be cops.
Yeah, a
You
kid
know.
pops a bag of chips in the cafeteria, and next thing you know, this guy's like, you know, screaming at Charlie in the cafeteria or something. Like, we can't have that. Sorry. No, all
No.
jokes about. Sorry for the PTSG jokes. It's just this is what you know what you're getting into with Hog Planet. You know.
Yeah,
Um,
we're
we're bad boys. We're not gonna be
we're the
canceled. We're not gonna be
bad
censored.
boys. I mean, we're not trying to like get like new listeners. Like, we're just doing what we do. And if people want to listen to this, they'll listen to this. And if maybe this, this isn't for you. It's a little dark. It's a little sad. It's maybe we have no insight. Maybe this is, maybe you're a hog and you don't like hearing us talk about you. But you know what? That's what we do here at Hog Planet. And we do it when we can. We have busy lives. We play Elden Ring. I play Elden Ring now. That's an update since the last episode.
All right, this is what I've been dying to know all episode. Dan, Have you purchased the crafting kit from Kale the merchant?
No, not yet. Not yet. I've been getting distracted by the little fights.
It's fun to get distracted in that game. I can't get mad at you. I've been dueling quite a bit. If anyone likes Elden Ring duels, you can feel free to get at me and we can set a password. Unless you're like one of the weirdos who spams bleed stuff. That's the most boring thing on earth. Strength build
I'm so
supremacy.
gonna cheat at Elden Ring.
Yeah, Dan, I want to build you into. I want to give you the worst, like most broken build in Elden Ring. All right. How do you want to close this out? Do we want to? I really have been enjoying conservatives complaining about inflation by showing like a big pile of junk food and being like, "This cost me $300 at the grocery store." Joe Biden, what are your thoughts? Like, that's my favorite thing.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
This Mom Life Facebook group, there's one post in there. It says, "This is $155 worth of food. This $155 isn't even a week's worth of meals. This $155 got us 3 days of meals." And the food, I'm just reading from like, upper left to bottom right. There are 3 cases of Mountain Dew, and 2 more cases, it looks like, of Sprite, 1 frozen Red Baron pizza, some Lunchables.
There's some vegetables because you got tomatoes on the pizza.
That's fair. That is, I think, the only plant product.
Or actually,
on
is that
this.
a fruit? We got a fruit.
Tomatoes are a fruit, but they're eaten as vegetables, and there's actually no definition of vegetables. There is a definition of fruit, which is that it has seeds, but vegetables are actually just like a term in food. It's based on how it's prepared. So tomatoes can be considered a vegetable, even though they are also fruits. Anyway, yeah, Lunchables are on here. There's like Bob Evans frozen mashed potatoes, which is by far the most bleak thing on here. I don't know. The only thing resembling food is like a couple chicken breasts and some cold cuts. There's a big bag of Dum Dum lollipops, and there's a box of Oreos too.
And then Joe Biden.
There's like 6 different kinds of chips, a box each of Apple Jacks and Fruit Loops. There's one lonely bottle of like apple juice in the back, which is the only thing, again, resembling any kind of nutrition. Multiple packs of Velveeta, some Pop-Tarts. Like, this is good stuff in my eyes. I also really liked the guy who posted his Five Guys receipt and was like, it cost me $45 for 2 people to eat at Five Guys. Like, this is madness. And I'm like, well, you got like the $9 milkshake. So what do you like? Each of you guys got like a $9 milkshake.
You got the large milkshake and like a large burger and fries. Like, what the
yeah,
fuck?
And they got the full burger, which if you all Five Guys heads know, if you can eat the full burger, like, you got to get the little one. The full one is like, I don't know. It's like, I think it's like really, really heavy. Obviously, I don't really eat meat that much, but back when I did used to partake in Five Guys, one of those full burgers will set you back for like a day. I don't know. Like, it is like, it's $45, but it is an inhuman amount of food to be like complaining about the price of.
Yeah, it's 2 meals of calories. All right, let's wrap things up. I'm Dan Spaventa. You can follow me at Spaventacular, at SPAVENTACULAR on Twitter, on Instagram, at D Spaventa. Figure it out. You can see my paintings there and occasional Instagram stories of random people I meet, such as the very cool Hassan Minaj. Very nice individual. Great meeting him, recording something for work. And I met Al Franken. That's relevant to the show.
He groped Dan instantly.
He did not.
Just kidding.
That's bullshit.
Parody,
Listen,
not actionable.
parody,
Yada yada yada.
No, he was cool. I mean, obviously, listen, like, I don't know. Do I like do I respect him? Like, no, but do I think he should be able to be interviewed for a radio documentary? Like, well, what the fuck's the difference, you know?
Well, many people who get Sirius XM with the free trial with their car, their new car, will be happy to listen to this. Anyway, yeah, my plugs. My Twitter is at Wagstank, WAGSTANK. The only plug I would care about people going towards is Ward 2 Mutual Aid. You can find the link on my Twitter. We have an open collective where you can become a regular contributor, so that we can do outreach with the unhoused in Washington, D.C., do grocery distribution. We do a lot of good things, and all on a shoestring budget. So if you want to get involved and you're in the area, that's good stuff. But if not, then just send us some money. That would be awesome.
Also gonna attach a GoFundMe from our friend Dom, who you might follow at
Yes.
Multiwhirl. He let's see, there's fundraising GoFundMe for an immigrant Roma family. You know, in a nice cause to help people get housing who deserve it. I've given Sam.
I have given
I'm sure,
as well.
I'm assuming you have given. A lot of our friends have given, and Dom is great person, really doing a great thing here. So the link for that GoFundMe is in the description. Right now they are only a couple $100 away from their goal. So if the Hog Planet fan can get them over the line here and donate just a couple bucks, that would really that would go a long way. So let's see, I guess we're done, right, Sam?
I think that's it. I think we did it.
All right, well, this is Hog Planet.
Really had me hanging there.
I know.